Hello, everyone at home. We're just about to start. Carmen, very good to see you back on the screen, and hope you had a good trip home. And I think we're ready to go. And I know that Tam has a topic here, so I'll let Tam start with her question.
Yes, the topic that I'd like to bring up is about what is aging in terms of realities.
Is that in Tipitaka?
Yes.
In Tipitaka?
The Buddha mentioned about aging in the Four Noble Truths.
So what is it in Tipitaka?
That's the question.
Can it experience anything?
It has to be that experiences.
But it cannot experience anything.
So it's just rupa.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it's all about rupa and the rupa conditioned by karma.
How old the nama is now, the chitta?
Okay, yes. Okay, that's
from eons and eons and eons and countable eons.
So it's karma conditioned rupa every moment, but the rupa that is conditioned by karma, it's not exactly the same at any moment.
Is it there now?
It's now, yes.
What is there now?
They're seeing.
How old is it?
It's
very, very young.
1 moment. So short.
So short.
But each one ages, each chitta ages, each rupa ages.
The rupa.
Each chitta ages, each rupa ages now. So very briefly.
But does it have also anything to do with the rupa that is conditioned by karma when one is 1 year old? Is not the same than the rupa that is conditioned by karma when one is 80 years old, for example.
Not as short as only 17 times of chitta. Each rupa.
Each rupa is very short, yes.
The age or the appearance.
And come back another way to answer your question, what is aging in the Dhamma? It's a concept.
It's a concept, and concept comes from reality. So the question is, what realities that give rise to the concept of aging?
The same realities that give rise to the concept of youth or anything else, just the same realities.
And what about Upajaya, Santati, Charata, and Marana? Is at the age of Arupa?
The 4 stages.
Yes. 4 phases of
Four
Arupa.
phases,
yes. Stages of an rupa.
And the age of Nama? Upajaya?
3 only.
They do talk about old age and so on. And it is a kind of, it's not made so explicit in the Dhamma as we know about each moment of rupa arises and passes away very quickly. And Tambak's wondering why then there's a different rupas every moment. Why then after 60, 70, 80, 90 years do people look so old? And obviously, you know, the rupa's not as vibrant apparently. There must be a reason for that. I mean, in the Deva world, it talks about that they are born spontaneously. They look 16 years old. When they die, they're still looking the same, except they lose some of their glow just before they're about to die. Whereas the human world, it's very noticeable that people are getting older and older. So, you know, I'd be interested if we could say anything about that too.
What about when it firstly arises? Is it so clear or very little? The moment of birth,
The moment of birth,
yes,
there's only 3 groups.
like the
of rupa.
fire beginning until it's that and then down.
Mhm.
It's the way Rupa is.
Every
Fully
rupa.
developed from moment from birth on and on up to that degree. It has to be the
Okay.
So it's just the nature of the human world or the animal world to be like that.
how old is the sun? Does it look old?
But it's getting older.
Takes quite a long time to appear different.
Yes, it's the nature is that it's that way. But when one refers to the outer appearance, so there's not only the Kamachara rupas, but also other rupas conditioned by other conditions as well. But the main factor that determine why one it looks old and the other looks young, it is because something in the karma. It's something that I'm still not clear about.
Well, what about people though that are exposed to the sun a lot? Their skin will look older than someone who's not been exposed to the sun much, right?
Yes.
And that's temperature. That's not karma.
Temperature. Yeah.
About the rupas of a tree. The tree looks older, just
And not
different
karma.
rupas conditioned by temperature.
Yes, that's true.
So the rupas conditioned in different ways to
Mhm.
give a different appearance.
So many factors, and we don't exclude
Like-
karma in the case of human
Like
beings.
the color of hair when one's young and when
Yes.
one's old is different, not just because of karma, but what about the nutriment and the temperature
Mhm.
and even the cheetah?
And,
I think it's
and
just-
what about the difference at moment of seeing or look at a tree? Someone think about how old it is, and someone know that it's just seen. What is better?
Of course. Visible object, not young or old,
There is doubt about everything.
for sure.
In the ultimate sense, it just comes down to the aging of the rupa or the aging of the cheetah, the aging of dhammas.
Mhm.
But we know that different groups of rupas are conditioned in different ways. And the conditions, as we discussed yesterday for eye sense now, different from conditions for eye sense later.
No understanding of the truth of it.
Was just asking you, Jay, if you wanted to say something.
Oh, thanks, Dhamma. Yes, I was just going to make a comment that it seems to me that aging, which Ajahn has mentioned before, starts from the moment of birth, by the way. So there's aging throughout life. Aging is different from old age. Aging can be seen as the passing of time in the lifespan. But what we think of as growing old can be seen as just an inevitable part of life in samsara, just as, say, the order of chittas in the sense door process is there. There's not a reason why the order is like that. It just is. And it's something that can't be nothing can be done to resist aging. It's like the approaching of death. You know, it's just, it happens. It's part of life in samsara.
Thank you. Friend on DSG brought up the sutta which we've discussed before, the Adipatteya Sutta, about the three predominances and the study or understanding of Dhamma for oneself, Atta Adipati, for the sake of the world, Loka Adipati, and for the sake of Dhamma, Dhamma Adipati. And we know that the best or most precious is the understanding for the sake of understanding, for the sake of the Dhamma. And the question that came up from the discussion is about the first one, Atta Adipati, because it seems that when one talks about studying the Dhamma for oneself, it seems that it's not true understanding. It seems like it's clinging for oneself. But when it's discussed in the sutta, they are all discussed as kinds of understanding, even though the last is better. Could you say a little more about Atta Adipati and Loka Adipati?
What's the meaning of Atta?
Self, oneself. So it's the understanding for oneself, to get something for oneself. So maybe there's some understanding, but when it's for oneself, it's not like when it's just for the sake of understanding, no thought of oneself.
To be reminded.
Just to be reminded that this is not the
Anytime.
way, yes. That, and the same with the other one, the Loka Adipati, it may be the study for the benefit of one's family or the world at large, but this is not the true study of Dhamma just for the sake of understanding, because one sees the value.
The meaning of adipati in that context.
I think it's the, like we know adipati pachi as predominance condition. So it's like the three, in English they translate as three authorities, but I think it's like three predominances, like what is the predominant condition for studying Dhamma. Like if mainly it's to get something for oneself, even though there may be some consideration for one's family or others, or maybe for others, but predominantly it is for oneself. That's how I understand it. And it is a good reminder, is one here to study Dhamma, to get something for oneself, to get the answer to one's question for oneself, or is it because one truly sees the value in just understanding for the sake of understanding? I'm glad to see Yotika here today. Yotika, is there anything you would like to, and happy birthday for last week. And is there anything you would like to bring up or ask Ajahn, because it's a precious opportunity to see her live?
I'm happy to be here. There was some difficulty to come in. I do not have at the moment. I was immediately thinking if it is for self, what you were talking about right now. But I think it is for self. It is for this Nama and Rupa sitting here, whatever I do.
I think it's also quite common in the beginning for looking for something for oneself, but the more consideration, the more reflection about the Dhamma, the more appreciation there is of the value of understanding, just for understanding, not for the others or the world or for oneself, but just for understanding. But it's a good point to consider what is the purpose of studying, of understanding.
I just want to add, because some people also think that learning Dhamma also to be a good person, that also related to the same concept of Atta Abhidana.
Yes, when there's the wishing to be a good person, wishing to change one's character, wishing to have more metta, wishing not to get angry, then it's not the study of Dhamma for the sake of understanding Dhamma as anatta. It's still for me. And this is what hinders the true development of understanding, when it's for me.
I think the other day we talked about one word that I don't understand yet, like kutara or something. Lokutara. Can we talk more about that?
So now all the realities, the dhammas that arise and fall away are lokia, they're worldly, ordinary, of this world, of this sense realm. But the lokuttara are the ones that are not of this world, the supramundane. So at the moment of enlightenment, the path consciousness and path factors at those moments are not of this world. They are supramundane, lokuttara, outside the world. And the object is nibbana. So the path consciousness, the result consciousness, and nibbana are all lokuttara dhammas. Sorry, not Meta. Maeve, was there anything at the end of this morning's discussion that wasn't quite finished that you wish to continue with? I hear you, Maeve. Unmute.
I've got out of the way of unmuting. Yes, back to the topic of that which experiences, and it was just a question about because there's like a knowing element in the idea of experiencing. And I was wondering whether citta can know itself.
Can make a stab at that, Maeve? No, because what's the object of citta? At that say when there's Jaku Vijnana, what is the object?
Well, it's always a reality. I suppose the question is around understanding the nature of citta itself, and it seems that it's citta that actually performs that that function. So is that an example of chitta actually knowing chitta?
One chitta knowing a different chitta, are you? Is that your question?
Yes, yes, yes. I guess it has to come down to that. Well, and knowing in particular, the chitta that is chief.
The chitta only experiences the object, so the knowing has to be the function of panya. So seeing now is a chitta, but it is panya that can understand the seeing.
Well, I thought that might be the case, but I was interested in exploring that a little more.
Are you referring
Well,
to knowing as understanding or to knowing as experiencing, Maeve?
Well, actually both, Jonathan, but also if panya does not arise, but there is considering and reflection about that which experiences, what is that simply thinking that is involved in that reflection?
Yes, if it's a subsequent moment of thinking about, it's thinking, which can be with or without understanding, or with or without attachment, etc.
I suppose this is going back to Ajahn's encouraging of us to attend to that which experiences. And so it's sort of in that territory, I guess, of not trying to understand it, but having perhaps just a little more clarity around what it is that we're reflecting on.
I think the kind of experiencing we're reflecting on is what happens in the moment. For example, at the moment of seeing, the experiencing is experiencing of visible object, obviously, and when it's hearing, it's the experiencing of sound. So that that experiencing of the object, that is the object of the citta at that moment. That's the kind of experiencing we're talking about.
So again, it comes back to whatever arises, not to go looking for something particular, but whatever arises, and just gradually the understanding grows.
Yes.
And not
And
trying to attend.
Yes, not trying to attend.
It's the characteristic that is common to all cittas and cittasikas. That is, they experience the object of that citta or cittasika at that moment.
Thank you, Jonathan.
What can be known now? It's there now, right? What can be known has to be what is there now. So it can be known because it's there, right? So what is there now? Not just the word, but the truth. To begin to understand each word that we have heard, to understand that it's there, but why it's not known yet, because no thought about it at all. For example, the reality which arises and experiences an object. Is it this moment? Is there something or anything experienced to be seen or heard? Without that which arises and experiences it, can it appear to be known? No. That's why learning to understand there is not just that which is seen. There must be a reality which arises. Otherwise, it cannot see anything at all. So what arises is the reality which arises to experience an object. Nobody can change its characteristic and its function. It's the unknown from birth. What is there appearing is that we thought about color, sound, and so on, people and things, situation. But without that which arises to experience what is there in a moment, just every moment, there cannot be such idea or thinking about it. That's why even right now, there is seeing. It's not just hearing, that seeing sees, that's not enough. It's to be remembered seeing. But what is the truth of seeing? What is its nature of that, which doesn't have form, shape, or anything else at all? No shape, no form, no sound, no hardness, but it arises condition. Contemplate on that, consider it carefully. Unreality is there, sees. No shape, no form, no sound, no hardness. Otherwise, it cannot be the reality which arises just to experience without any rupa with it at all. And it's there now. That's why usually in life from birth, we just think about that which is seen and heard. And the nimitta, the shape and form of that which arises and falls away in split seconds, form up something with shape and form to be known. Panyati, that it's there, it's this or it's that, without any word, but it's there already at moment of seeing. It's someone or something by nimitta of that which is seen. So we have to consider both the reality which arises and experience or see that, and that which is seen. That which is seen before it can be known that it's seen. So many moments, not one moment only, or one process only. That's why what appears by way of nimitta. No matter seeing, how many moments of seeing, and there is seeing, and seeing is that which arises and experience, that which is seen now. See, that which is seen now, there must be the reality which arises and experience it. But what is seen appears by nimitta as something. It may not have something. So each moment in life, it's that which arises and falls away all the time, never to return at all, condition such idea, by the way, it just arises and falls away so rapidly, condition the nimitta. So everyone lives in the world of nimitta and panyati. That's why Buddha enlightened the truth of what is there. So true, it can be learned about the truth of it little by little from hearing and considering about what is there now, seeing. Otherwise, seeing cannot be attended as it, not that which is seen. And the reality which arises and experiences, no matter what object is. That's why we have to understand the nature of that reality arises just to experience the object, no matter the object is known or not. In order to understand the nature that nothing is there, only that which experiences an object is there at moment of birth. But the object at birth is not known. And Buddha taught about that, but we don't have to talk about it right now. But to understand that there must be a reality arising and experiencing at moment of birth. And at moment of birth, the object of birth consciousness is not known until when something like that which can be seen impinge on the eye base. The reality which usually arises and falls where experiences the unknown object is conditioned to experience that which is seen now. And then the object is gone. It experiences the unknown object again until the sound impinges on the ear base. It conditions that reality which arises each moment, never absent at all, by conditions. It's there. No matter the object is known or not, it arises to experience the object. That's why we understand what is meant by process or viticita, experiences different object from object of birth. And when the object which impinges on the bases fall away, it's moment of experiencing the unknown object right now in between each process. But it's not known. That's why learning about one word, there must be considering of the truth of it, just one at a time, before we talk about Cetana or other mental factor, attachment and on. Just talk about Citta itself. It cannot attach, it cannot remember, it cannot do anything at all, only arises and experience the object by conditions. Even the object at moment of birth is by condition. No matter what, it needs its proper conditions for its arising to be only that, not the other at all. So Citta is there from birth to death, each moment, and continue on as there are conditions for the new life after death. Citta is there. So how old is Citta? We just talk about uncountable years, non-stop, just arise and fall away all the time. And in this life, condition for the object which can be experienced must be by condition. In this plane, as human being, different from ant or elephant or cat or dog. See, by conditions, there are so many karmas, but one karma condition, birth consciousness. But what about all other karmas in life, which can produce or condition result, depending on the birth consciousness as well. When the birth consciousness is only that, it can be just the life of ant until death. It cannot understand the meaning of any sound, any voice, any word. See, that is the way Dhamma is. Just arise and then falls away because there are conditions for arising. So as soon as it has a reason, performing its function, it's gone, never to arise again. And this can be realized. Otherwise, it's useless just to listen to it, that is true or not this moment. That's why even Citta has to be known. Otherwise, it's there. The upadana of Vijnana Khanda, because whatever arises is Khanda. And when there is no understanding, another reality which arises with Citta, but it cannot perform the function of Citta, but it shares the same object that Citta experiences clearly, because that is the function of Citta. And the attachment share the same object, arises together, experience the same object, but it's different from that which is the chief of experiencing an object, the Citta. But it's another quality, another reality. And when it's attachment, because of ignorance, not understanding that what is attached, gone. never to arise again. So attached to what? Only the image and the panjati by another reality, sanya, which arises to marks and remembers what is there. It arises with each moment of citta. So now, at moment of seeing, sanya marks and remember what is seen, and then gone. And no matter what kind of citta arises, sanya is there. It cannot experience the object as clear as citta, but it marks and remembers. It cannot be attached. That's why we learn to understand what are there in life from moment to moment. They are conditioned to arise, perform their functions, and then fall away instantly, never to return. And if that cannot be experienced, it's useless. That's why hearing about the truth, what about confidence of the truth? Nobody can change. Whatever is seen now can be the object of understanding. When there is moment of attending to what is understood, as it's not a cup, it's only that which is seen, many processes, condition, the mark, the shape and form to be known. This is different from this. In a process, so how fast it is to, as soon as one opens one's eyes, everything is there. That's why I have confidence of the truth, that what is there can be learned from no attention to any characteristic of what is there now. And now it's seen, not that which sees. Beginning to understand the differences between that which is seen and the seeing, which sees it. And it takes quite a long time to be truthful to the truth. When it's confidence, it's Satya Barami, Satyayana of the first level of understanding. If it's not enough, firm confidence, Satya, there are so many moments conditioned by ignorance to go wrong, to try to experience that without any understanding at all. That's why Buddha taught about the truth of what is there in a moment in life, from moment to moment, from life to life, to be considered stage by stage. If there is no understanding about the truth of citta, that which arises to be the chief of experiencing, how can there be the moment of what is seen? The reality which arises and experiences is there, experiencing. Otherwise, it cannot be seen. So we learn about each moment in process, how come from no seeing to be seeing just in a moment. And the other moment, when the object is still there, it conditions another citta not to experience the other object, but only the object which is seen, which hasn't fallen away yet, but it cannot see, because it is another cetasika to arise with it, vitakka cetasika, to touch on that object, to be object of sampatichana, and sampatichana just receive or experience the object after seeing. Without seeing, sampatichana cannot arise, but sampatichana cannot see. That's why we learn about the truth of each citta, which is different by conditions, beginning from hearing, considering, and letting go, because no one can experience directly at will. But from hearing, is there any attention to the meaning of the word enough to have confidence of citta as citta, and the object which is seen is different object by conditions. What is seen is not that which heard, not is that which smelled, and so on, in a moment. So we live in the world of ignorance and attachment to that which is not there anymore. But it seems like it's there all the time. But at birth, after birth, can it be just like this life? That's why each moment is gone unknowingly. So each moment dies like death, never to return, never to arise again. And that is karnika, momentarily death, the same as moment of death, never to be this personality or this person at all after death. Because they are only different realities which experience the object and that which cannot experience any object. And this is life in darkness of ignorance. Who knows? The world of nimitta, someone there, something there. And the world of panyati, makes known as how many people are there here from birth to death. Without hearing, considering the truth, it's impossible to understand what is there. Even we heard about citta, if there's no attention, no careful considering, how can the moment of not attend to that which is seen, but begin to attend to the reality which experiences that? Until when the object, the whisper object or sound is not there anymore, nothing is there. That is a reality appearing to be known, that it experiences. If the object appears together, how can there be the distinction between that which experience and that which the object of experiencing? That's why now it's time for understanding, developing little by little, unknown, unexpectedly, until it can be a moment of direct understanding of whatever is now appearing, just not like now, naturally, by conditions. So the anatthaness, the understanding of the anatthaness is firmer, more confidence. Nothing can be done. And understand all kinds of parami. For example, satya parami. There must be birth and death. And between that, just seeing and then gone, hearing gone, everything just in a moment. Without understanding, it seems that it's there, I all the time, and someone and something in life. To understand what is the absolute truth, the Ariya Satya, it can be realized, but by only the path, understanding what is there now. Otherwise, the word is remembered, but next life, who can understand this word? We might be very skillful, and Pali language might be one's own native language, but today, no understanding of any Pali term at all. So next life, who knows? Can the ant understand what we are saying? And anyone can be born as what we saw now. Ant, mosquito, and so on. What about the last life? And what about the next life? And what about now? What is there now after death?
Thank you, Ajahn. It actually that helps to make it just a little bit clearer how understanding citta is so directly connected with the getting to an understanding of what anatta means. That it's not possible to get a sense of that as long as there is always the idea of someone who is seeing or someone who is hearing, but thinking in terms of just citta, just the function of citta, in a deeper and deeper way, I can see how that gradually wears away the idea of self.
And before citta can appear to be known, it has to be a moment of listening carefully to understand the difference between that which is seen and that which experiences that. So to be truthful, is there such moment in a day or not yet? Is there even just thinking about it, not experience it yet? Is there in a day or not yet? But what I heard now, the word of truth, can condition unexpected moment, another level of understanding, anatta, of the reality which is not there and then there by conditions, like direct awareness of whatever is there. Can there be the direct awareness of hardness and that which experiences it, or that which seen and that which sees? See, by conditions, without understanding or attention to the characteristic that we have heard, they can never appear to be known. Because it can be known only to right understanding of that different degrees of understanding. Because now we're talking about seeing, and there is seeing. To be truthful, is there any direct understanding of seeing right there when it's there to be known? That's why there is the understanding of the difference between intellectual understanding about seeing and hearing and the moment when it's the object of awareness. Suddenly, instantly, unexpectedly, anatta becomes a little more clearer, little by little. So it let go the idea of atta at that very moment, nothing to be done. Gradually, be patient with viriya and satta, adidana, nekama, all that. And it has to be the understanding of daily life too. It's not just expected to have it appear sometime, somewhere, but even in daily life, there can be thinking about what is there by conditions. What is seen is only that which appears, and then there is the idea of I see an ant, I see a glass, but what is seen is that which is seen in daily life. So what are there now in truth? See, no one firm enough, or there are many people around as usual, but the understanding little by little develop to thinking about the truth and then considering sometime a little more by conditions. But the truth is that actually there's no one. And if it's not directly experienced, it cannot let go the idea of self. That's why I have confidence, satyana, of the pariyati, intellectual understanding. So it can condition moment of unexpected awareness because there is enough and confidence of sati that it's not seeing and so on. Each moment of understanding, letting go the idea of self gradually, but not as no one yet. It's the atta, as long as the anatta does not appear to be known.
Thank you, Ajahn.
So we usually say that everything that appears by way of nimitta, even at the level of vipassana jnana. So in the vipassana jnana, like we realize the arising and passing away, it is the arising and the nimitta of the arising and passing away, which is realized.
Right understanding develops stage by stage, even vipassana jnana. So what is the first vipassana jnana?
It's the distinction between Nama and Rupa.
Only that.
Yes.
Only that. Because now even we talk about it, it doesn't appear like that. But when it appears at the moment of vipassana, nothing is there. Understanding what is meant by Nama and Rupa, not anyone. How short it is. Because this moment, so many moments of citta and cetasika arising and falling away. It has to be as it is, but right understanding is keen enough, beginning from moment of being aware, little by little, to understand the difference between different reality. And it has to be so truthful, whether is there enough attention to the reality which now experience an object. No shape, no form, no one. Different from that which is experienced. That's why before can there be getting closer and closer to the truth of the innermost. There can be the understanding of what is the meaning of the innermost. Be truthful. That is there, but it's not known yet. When right understanding is not strong enough, keen enough, sharp enough to understand the difference between moment of awareness and moment without direct awareness. And this is patipatti or bhavana, the development of understanding. So how much understanding of what is there now can be known by panya.
Has to be nimitta all the way, all through the vipassana jnanas, because the understanding is clearer and clearer and clearer, more and more precise, deeper and deeper. So it's always nimitta of the nature of citta. Now we think about arising and falling away, but when it's so clear, clearly understands the rising and falling away of that reality, which has already been understood clearly, but it's always nimitta.
Yes, but we cannot say that the nimitta arise and pass away. So is it the nimitta of the arising and passing away, right? Yes. Okay, that's the point.
For example, now is the citta before seeing and citta after seeing. Can it appear? That's why it's nimitta of seeing. Because there is seeing right now. Not the panchatavara vachana or sampatichana appears. Only seeing now appears. But as nimitta, it does not arise and fall away to be known now. So when it's known, it's the nimitta of the arising and falling away of seeing, because now there is seeing. So the arising and falling away can be experienced of the seeing. That's why understanding what's meant by nimitta.
The danger or the fearfulness of citta is not something separate. It's just the nature of citta that is understood so clearly that it's understood as dangerous or fearful because of understanding that it has fallen away instantly. But it's the understanding of the citta at the moment when the reality is experienced so clearly.
Yes.
Or any reality.
And I know this is too far away, but because we're just moving along that line, the object, can you say anything about the objects, the cheetahs, the last Kamavachara cheetah before Nibbana? So it's experienced, and it is one of the three characteristics is understood at that moment. So this, yes, and it's still nimitta of a reality.
Any reality,
It can be anything.
visible object, dosa, jhana chitta,
Anything.
jhana factor,
Yes.
any object, kindness, meanness.
But of course, it's very far away.
I still like to know about the India. I asked Achan once many times ago, but I'd like to hear more about the India.
Does it mean?
The reality.
Everything is reality.
Yes, but
Is everything Indriya?
no,
So what is meant by Indriya?
it's have a power to control in its area.
Control.
I mean that it's can affect the others, govern, lead the others. Reality.
Is it that its function? How many Indriya?
I don't remember exactly. 22. 22. Yes. It's a number, but I'm not
It
good in the
doesn't
number.
matter because we can talk about just some Virya to understand. Just mention one place.
Like sati to be Indriya. Yes.
Is there sati now?
It's a moment of the wholesome. And as a moment of right understanding is the sati.
Is that sati Indriya?
I'm not sure.
Why not? Otherwise, there cannot be sati, and then satindriya, and then satipala, and sati sampocho, and sammasati.
Many levels of the sati.
It has to be moments of sati at the degree of satipatthana, the awareness of the reality with understanding of the reality to be Indriya. So now moments of kindness or moments of wise reflection, there's sati, but not powerful enough to be Indriya, and it's not the direct awareness.
Can sati now be at level of Indriya? It's not known. How can it be? Why do you think about Indriya?
Because it can lead the others reality in its field.
That's the word. Forget its characteristic and its function, no matter what degree.
And the chitta, it's meaning the Indriya, and it's now.
What time?
Every moment.
See,
Because
that
it's
is the
chitta now,
understanding.
Yes.
Never change.
No matter it's
Manindriya.
akusala chitta or
Any
kusala
moments.
chitta or vipaka chitta, it's always the leader in its way, it's chief in experiencing, it's always Indriya. I sense, no matter whether it's good or bad I sense, or young or old, I sense is always
So
Indriya.
it's another meaning of innermost
It's
of
there.
Chitta.
Can it be changed from not being innermost?
Mm.
So it is innermost. Is it known now? The innermost. It's want to understand the word. But what about the truth? That's why even it is translated in other languages, but what is characteristic and its function is more important than word. When we think about the leader, it seems like the other follows it. But what about the Sahajata Pajja? It conditions each one. But it's the innermost, never change. It learned to understand the truth just one at a time, one characteristic. And just understand the characteristic and the function, not the word. For example, vitaka, what is it? See, by the word or what word will condition the understanding of it. It arises after the 10 chittas. So what is it? As much as we can think, it touches the object. Otherwise, it cannot experience or receive that object. Sampatichana. And keep on from then on as the foot of the world, on and on and on. Anything, any word that can condition the understanding closer and closer to the truth, conform with the other words in the Pitipaka about it. For example, is it the factor of the path? See, we remember Samma Sankappa and its Vitaka Cetasika, but is there enough understanding of the characteristic of Vitaka that is there, touching the object? Firm enough to understand the truth. If it does not touch, can there be more understanding of that which is not touched? If it does not touch, can it experience the object? Because it cannot see.
So Vitaka is translated as thinking, but thinking just seems a lot more gross than the actual Vitaka.
That's why there must be considering of the word, whether it's thinking or it arises after seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting instantly. So what is its function?
Well, you have said it touches the object.
Like pasha.
Yes, yeah, like
Not,
but it's not passive.
not touching, see.
Jen, can you explain the different contexts? I mean, when we're thinking in words to ourselves, we're thinking about something. Vitaka, is Vitaka dominant at that stage, or what is it? Or is that something different altogether?
Thinking the moment which arises instantly after seeing, can it experience the object without seeing? To touch the object, to receive, to experience that object without seeing. But the object is there. So it cannot experience the other object because the object which is seen, which is there impinged on the eye base, hasn't fallen away yet. And because it does not see, so vitaka is there to touch the object for it to receive the object.
Yes, that's kind of clear. I mean, that's in a very short process. It's working that way. But what about just in not talking about process so much, but just normal thinking?
Anytime.
Anytime, yes.
Mhm.
But we're
Before
thinking of a
thinking.
story. So we're thinking of panyati, some concept. You know, in a conventional sense, we call it thinking, but there's also vitaka there, we know, but is vitaka dominant or something? We call it thinking too.
With our sanya, can they be thinking?
No, of course. There's sanya, there's chitta, and all the other cetasikas
So
we know.
pasa, so vitaka touch it to be the object of thinking on and on and on.
And
By
so,
sanya,
And vitaka arising together to think about
without sanya,
this
they cannot
concept.
be thinking. And without touching, can it experience the object that sanya is there, condition that moment?
So
to think.
when thinking about a concept, vitaka's touching the concept along with sanya, remembering? Or?
When we talk about thinking, it's moment when there's no seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching process. That's all.
Usually we think of it as something quite different when there's thinking about the story and the ideas. But actually its function is exactly the same, even at those moments in the sense door process after seeing, hearing. But we have the idea it's something special when there are ideas, but actually it's just because the sanya conditions it at those moments. But at all those moments, it's still just leading to or touching the object, which the citta and other cetasikas experience. I think it's because of the translation of thinking that it gives it significance at those times, because usually people forget about it at the moments when there's no idea, even in the sense door process.
Yeah, so Robert, when there's thinking in the sense of, say, daydreaming about something or planning what one's going to do tomorrow, totally unrelated to what's being experienced through the sense doors in the present moment, vitaka performs its function. But I understand your question. Is there some special role for vitaka when there's thinking? And I think the answer is no. It just always performs the same function whenever it arises. And it just happens to use the term thinking as a translation for vitaka. I'm not sure why, but and the other thing I think to keep in mind is that what we call thinking, that's a conventional term for chittas. It's not a Dhamma term, is it? So in Dhamma terms, it's just kusala and akusala chittas in the javana, performing the javana function.
Do you think that when we're daydreaming and taking a concept as an object, it's repeating the same object more because of, there has to be a train of thought taking the same general type object, whereas a sense door process kind of seems to be a bit quicker. I don't know if that's why it seems that way.
But it comes down to the train of thought and the repetitive thinking of the same object or train of thought. That's all a matter of accumulated tendencies and interest in the subject matter rather than the vitaka cetasika.
As raw sanya is there, it conditioned touching the object with the raw sanya.
so what about vijara? That goes along, there's vitaka and vijara. So isn't vijara also like a thinking?
A little bit different. Without vitaka, can there be vichara?
No, because I think they go together.
But they are different.
They are different, yes. Because we don't talk much about vichara.
Because it's there with vitaka. When there
And it's
is
not a part
understanding
factor.
of vitaka.
If you look at the two hands, you look at this one, Navitaka, and then you look longer. Oh, so beautiful. Look at that for 2 seconds. That's Vichara. Can I say that?
You're an artist.
What about that which is there together? Support the vitaka not to go astray.
Right.
And can it appear like not nimitta as it is? That's why we're talking about that which does not appear as it is. For example, right now, there is vitaka for sure. At the moment of seeing, who knows?
And example for the jhana attainers, they know the characteristic of vitaka and vichara. It appears to them, but
Yeah,
not as non-self,
not together at
Not-
the same
and not
moment.
together.
Until it's second jhana. Okay. Skillful enough not to have vitaka is there by itself. And when it does not appear, can we try to understand it? Just know that it's there, different from vitaka, that's all. Just learn to understand what are there as Dhamma, so very subtle, even Phassa or Vedana or whatever. Because even at moment of Vipassana Jhana, when Vedana appears as the object, does Citta also appear?
Not at the same time.
Not at all, one by one. Otherwise, it's not clearly experienced at the degree of Vipassana Jhana. We learn just to understand that nothing can be taken for self. Just in split second arises and falls away, never to arise again.
The mind or vitaka touches the object, but the object is not there. So it's through sanya that you can touch the object, but there's no object actually. There is
Sanya remembers,
the memory of the
vitaka
object.
touch it
Just the
to be object of experiencing.
nimitta.
Always nimitta. Only one reality, nibbana. Because it does not arise, how can there be nimitta of it?
And it is not right. Is not right vitaka. That's from atasanya and also miccha sankappa.
They are there now, but if not anyone appear, it cannot be realized. It's just thinking about it. Because even citta, we know a lot about it. When it doesn't appear, how can there be moment of no doubt about it?
I think it's really helpful to go through these Jetasekas like this, because it clearly, or for me, it clearly points to anatta. There's no self to be found, nothing lasting to be found in anything that we've talked about.
That's why Buddha taught about it.
Right.
Mhm.
Nina, is there anything you would like to ask about today? Last chance to talk to Ajahn live for a while.
Yesterday, I had a visitor, and he has a project, an international project, and we talked about love and kindness, and he seemed to be understanding the difference between clinging and self-seeking or wanting result and pure metta, but not in the Buddhist sense. And he does not see it as non-self. And I was thinking of Sarah and Jonathan, who often have conversations without any Pali terms. So I was wondering how to explain it as non-self without using any terms, because that was lacking. That is not enough. As Ajahn says, it is not enough to understand the difference between pure kindness and when there is some clinging, not the real pure metta.
I think this is also why we begin to consider more about seeing now, because is there any I that can be found to see now? If so, how is that I experienced? Is it seen? Is it heard? Is it tasted, touched, or is it just thought about? So now it's just the reality that sees, but so quickly there's the idea that I see. And it's just the same with other realities like metta. At a moment of kindness, helping someone in need, no thought about I, but afterwards there's the idea, oh, my kindness, or I acted kindly. But at the moment of helping, just that quality of kindness is there, friendliness, care for the other. So however hard we look, can we really find the I that experiences? Or is it just a figment of the imagination? So we don't have to say no self, but I think the listener can begin to consider whether there is really an I being kind, or just at the moment when there is an opportunity, kindness arises and then it's gone. So it's just for a moment of friendliness, different from when it's the idea of I trying to be kind or I wishing to have kindness.
I think he does not think about I, but it can still be present, an idea of I. But I'm sure he's just thinking of helping. So it's real hard to go into the details for an outsider who has not heard the Dhamma at all.
So I think we can say the helping and the kindness is precious, but even more precious is when there's a little more understanding of the nature of life as it is at this moment. So no matter whether there's helping or not helping, however far hard we look, can an I be found? And even when helping, is it wholesome all the time, or are there moments of considering the welfare of the others, or moments of being glad and clinging to the kind deed, or moments of hoping it's appreciated? I think most people can understand that there are different moments, not all goodness. Everyone knows that sometimes they're disappointed because the receiver doesn't appreciate the gift, for example. Everyone knows that sometimes there's clinging to the goodness, being pleased with oneself. So I think people can begin to appreciate this. We don't have to just say no self, and what about seeing now? So little by little, it has to be what is useful for the listener at the time, not what we would like to talk about.
Yeah. They may not be open-minded for how short each moment is, or have no interest in that. So it's no use to talk about it then.
So let them talk about what they're interested in and find helpful, and then one can just question a little bit. Otherwise, it's our own agenda.
Yeah. Thank you.
And they may just like to talk about their good deed and not listen to anything. So it just depends on the time. And I think, as Ajahn was stressing, khanti, patience, to help others. So much patience. So we have a wonderful example. And yesterday, Ajahn fell over Nina. She had a minor accident, but everything is fine. But this morning she said, just don't think about it, all gone, not of any importance. Usually we dwell on me and what happened and my discomfort, but all gone. So a good example, just forget all the difficulty from yesterday or this morning or 5 minutes ago, all gone. So when thinking of the others, helping the others according to their needs, no time to think about one's own problem or discomfort at all.
When talking about a project, it is all about situations. And then to know the difference between situations and the momentary realities, the absolute realities, and the difference, that is difficult, and that depends on people's interests.
So when they talk about the problem with their project, for example, well, what about now? What about the thinking now? Is the real problem in life the project not going to plan, or is it the thinking now, the worrying now, the disturbance now, the clinging now? So I think that little by little, people can begin to appreciate that actually the real problems are here and now, in one's way of thinking, not in the outside circumstances. Stu, Nina. Hear you, Nina. Nina, turn on your microphone.
He does not worry at all, but he believes he should be in the background and not be on the foreground. Just very modest. He's very modest. But there's a difference between the Buddhist teaching of absolute realities.
And now are we bothered about him being bothered? So it always comes back to the citta now, the thinking now. Sometimes we're concerned that the others are not interested or not asking the right questions, but what about the citta at this moment? Like when Ajahn had her fell and everyone was concerned, kusala or akusala, at those moments of concern. Is there kindness or is there worry and disturbance? So it all comes back to the citta at each moment, even now. Okay, I think we're going to be finishing soon. Does anyone else have anything they would like to say?
Very. Are you talking about a question or?
Just go again.
Okay.
Hearing you, Anne.
Sorry. I'm just going back to the discussion about Vitaka briefly, I hope. We're talking about with the thinking, Vitaka touches the object of thinking, and is that object what Sanya remembers? I'm thinking about you talking about Vitaka and what Sanya remembers, and I guess I've missed the point.
Why is there thinking about Anne now and not thinking about Azita now when we look at your picture? Because Sanya remembers this one is, this is Anne. So the Vitaka leads to the object, touches that object, and that is thought about because of Sanya remembering.
Okay, so the object is, in this situation, is what Sanya has remembered and
right, as remembered and marked.
And marked, okay. And other types of thinking, I guess if we're talking about, well, it's all concept, but if we're talking about something more complex, like
without Sanya, no thinking about those complex ideas.
Okay.
But it's just a moment.
Okay.
We think of something complex, but it's actually just a moment. Yes.
Okay, thank you. That helps.
And Sarah, just before we go, may I say something, Sarah?
Dave.
Oh, thank you. Actually, Ajahn, I just wanted to thank you so much for this opportunity. Not just the sharing of the teachings, but thank you in particular for teaching us about patience, because I think you give us so many examples of patience, which are better than the words in the book. So thank you very, very much for that. Anamoto.
And in order to get closer to understand Vitaka, what about it's there all the time except 10 chittas? That's all we begin to understand its function and its characteristic, different from the others. No matter we say at moment of thinking or whatever, only 10 chittas, it does not arise because the condition for the arising of seeing and hearing, so on, only by karma, it's enough for 7 cetasikas to be the result of the moment of seeing. Enough, just seeing. That's why we begin to understand a little more about seeing, how short and not very important at all. It's just seeing a moment. But what follows with Vitaka, they begin to touch and condition more and more different moments, marks and remember, and on and on. And even the metta, it can be now. See, to understand that, do you have friend or any friend? Why do you call that friend different from the other? Or be friendly to any being, just like the feeling towards your friend. Can it be to anyone? Be friendly.
Thank you for joining us, or everyone at home, and thank you everyone here for coming for these amazing sessions. So, Anamod.
And thank you so much for making it available to those of us at home. It really is wonderful to feel like you're part of the room.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Jonathan.
Thank you, Ajahn, so much.